So good day. This is the part 1 of IFRS number 2, share-based payment, which will include the discussion of equity settled share-based payment transactions, or what is so-called share options. Okay, so let's talk about first share-based payment agreement. So this definition is actually coined from the IFRS 2's definition of terms. Okay, so it is an agreement between the entity and another party that entitles the other party to receive cash or other asset of an entity for the amounts based on price of equity instruments of the entity or another group of entity, or equity instruments of the entity or another group of entity, provided the vesting conditions, if any, are met. Okay, so para to simplify this definition, parang ganito yan. Halimbawa, we have our entity, tapos meron tayong employee. Usually, di ba, pag binabayaran natin employee natin, it's in the form of cash. Pero, kaya natin sila binabayaran kasi nga, okay, um, nagtatrabaho sila. Now, in a shared-based payment agreement, okay, so let's say the entity will give the employee, okay, okay, a particular compensation plan. Okay, so let's say for example, okay, sige, aside from doon sa sinasahod mo, bigyan kita ng ganito pag nagtrabaho ka, okay? At una doon sa letter A, di ba? Okay, umangat yung price ng share natin, okay? Magkakaroon ka ng additional payment na cash or other asset. O kaya naman, sa letter B, okay, pag nagtrabaho ka ng ganitong dalawang years sa company, bibigyan kita ng particular chance na makabili ng equity instruments. So actually, itong share-based agreement na to, ito yung kabuuan nung i-discuss natin, okay, not only for today, up to the next meeting's discussion, na kung saan in exchange of a particular services provided by an employee or any other party in the entity, okay, so meron siyang kapalit na entitlement to receive either cash or other asset na nakabase sa share price or even equity instruments of the entity. So kung kanina we talk about share-based payment agreement, so an agreement, ngayon naman, ano na yung nangyari after that there is an agreement? So there is already a transaction. So let's talk about share-based payment transaction. So it is a transaction in which the entity receives goods or services from suppliers of those goods or services in a share-based payment agreement. So nabanggit kanina yung all about the employee no giving services to the entity, okay, para makuha niya yung ibibigay ng entity na cash or other assets or even the equity instruments, or to incur obligation to settle transactions with the suppliers in a shared-based payment agreement when another group of entity receives those goods or services. So, yung shared-based transaction, typically, yan na mismo yung magpo-provide ng services yung employee, o kaya naman to settle on the part of the supplier, okay, ng services in a shared-based payment agreement. So mamaya gagamitin natin yan in terms of really understanding about this shared-based payment computation. So in accordance with IFRS number 2, okay, an entity shall recognize the goods or services received or acquired in a shared-based payment transaction. So ito yung, di ba, yung goods or services na babayaran ng entity, okay, ay i-recognize daw when it obtains the goods, okay, or as the services are received. So we will just again recognize whatever would be if there is already a receipt of goods or services. Then, also, as part of the recognition in IFRS number 2, so the entity shall recognize a corresponding increase in equity if the goods or services were received in an equity settled based payment transaction. So, mamaya we will discuss that further. Okay, or a liability if the goods or services were acquired in a cash settled based transaction. So that's based on paragraph number 6. So what will happen, okay, di ba nag-provide na ng services yung ating service provider, no, o kaya supplier of services, or even the goods, no, tapos supposed to be, di ba, babayaran natin siya in return, yung sabi kanina sa share-based um, payment agreement, okay, so we shall record it as an increase in an equity, okay. Then, when goods or services received or acquired in a shared-based payment transaction does not qualify for a recognition of assets, or bakit po natin i-recognize siya as asset? Kasi di ba nga technically, once we receive the goods, okay, pwede natin siya ilagay as inventory or what, okay, or even di ba kapag nag-provide ng services, pwedeng capitalizable yung services, then dito, ang sabi lang, no, if the payment transaction does not qualify for recognition of assets, so walang assets sa mga ganap, then it should be recognized as an expense. So, technically, expense, assets, okay, yung i-recognize natin on our part, then we will need to pay it through cash or even through equity settled share-based payment. So let's also define some critical terminologies na babanggitin natin mamaya throughout our discussion or even the next part discussion natin. Okay, so these definitions are actually coming from the standard itself. So I will try to read it and then later on explain further ano ba itong mga ito. Okay, so we have number 1, no, grant date. So based on the standard, it is the date at which the entity and another party agree to the share-based payment agreement, being when the entity and counterparty have a shared understanding of the terms and condition of the agreement. So, technically, kapag nagkaroon na, okay na, let's say for example, okay na, nagkaroon na ng agreement, nagkaroon na ng signing, so this is the date now wherein doon mag-start yung particular receipt of either equity or cash settled based transactions. Okay, at important itong grant date na to kasi this is where we are going to start the counting later of the number of years or number of periods maybe, no, that will coincide on our vesting period. Okay? So mamaya on the illustration medyo kumbaga babanggitin natin yung terminology na grant date na yan. Okay? Another would be the term vest. So when we talk about vest, okay, it means to become an entitlement. Okay? Under the share-based payment agreement, a counterparty right to receive cash or other asset or even equity instruments of the entity vests when the counterparty's entitlement is no longer conditional on the satisfaction of any vesting conditions. Okay? So, pag sinabi nating vest mamaya, it means entitlement. So, pag nag-vest, ibig sabihin may entitle na yung ating particular shared-based payment transaction. Okay? Mafu-fulfill na yung certain condition. Okay, at ano naman yung vesting condition? So, a vesting condition is a condition that determines whether the entity receives the services that entitles the counterparty to receive cash, other asset, or equity instruments of the entity under the share-based payment agreement. So, a vesting condition is either a service condition or performance condition. So, ang company in a share-based payment agreement, nagsiset yan ng mga conditions. Okay, sample, no? Nabanggit dito yung service condition. Okay. So, pwede kang bigyan ng ganitong amount o kaya naman bibigyan kita ng share if, okay, nag-stay ka sa company for 3 years. Okay? So, that vesting period, okay, is now having that condition, kailangan mo magstay. Okay? Tapos, performance conditions. Okay, pwede kitang bigyan or bayaran if ma-reach na yung ganitong amount ng share price o kaya naman ganitong amount ng revenue or even ng profit. Okay? So, merong certain conditions bago ma-receive yung cash or other assets. So, mamaya we will have different vesting conditions depending upon the problem. Okay, and lastly, nabanggit ko kanina, in a certain vesting period. So it is a period during which all specified vesting conditions of a share-based payment agreement are to be satisfied. So length of time yan. Okay, so these are just some terminologies that we will try to understand later as we go along with some problems. Okay. Okay, so this is just an illustration which use some of the terminologies discussed a while ago. So yung grant date, again, this is the date that there is already a shared understanding between the parties involved in a shared-based payment agreement. So dyan yung time na kung saan mag-start ngayon na kailangan i-fulfill yung tinatawag natin na vesting condition. At yung time na pag-fulfill ng vesting condition is known as the vesting period. Okay, so yung pangalawang line, no, it represents now the end of the vesting condition. So, ibig sabihin na met na yung vesting condition. Tapos, we are now allowed to exercise. So, yun yung wala sa definition of terms kanina na exercise period wherein when we talk about it, okay, it is the period of time on which the provider of services can exercise its options, no, either to receive cash, okay, na nakabase sa share price ng ating entity o kaya naman unequivalent equity instruments na nabanggit natin yung kanina, di ba? Yung equity settled at saka cash settled. And then of course, there would be a certain point in time na mag-expire na rin yung ating grinant na options o kaya naman um, share appreciation, right? So those terminologies ulit na nabanggit ko, madadaanan ulit natin yan in our problems or even our discussion throughout this PowerPoint as well as the next presentations. So ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon araw is all about yung equity settled shared-based payment. So kanina on the previous slides nabanggit that there would be equity settled o kaya naman cash settled. So yung cash settled natin will be discussed next meeting. Samantala ngayon we'll be talking about equity settled which is usually known as share options. So bakit po siya naging equity settled? Kasi in exchange of the goods or services provided by the supplier of goods or services, okay, we are about to pay them with a shares of stock. Okay, and we term it as share option. Okay, so ano ba tong share option na to as per the standard? So, a share option represents a right granted to officers and employees of an entity. Take note, officers and employees of an enterprise as part of a bonus agreement that serves as an incentive to remain in the entity's employ or as a reward for the efforts in improving the entity's performance. Okay, so stock option or share option, okay, is a contract that gives the holder the right but not an obligation to subscribe to the entity's shares at a fixed or determinable price for a specific period. So, itong particular share options na to, di gaya ng share rights o na recall lang tayo na yung share rights binibigay siya sa um, shareholders, existing shareholders. Tapos yung share warrants naman, binibigay siya if you have purchased preference shares o kaya naman bonds of the entities. Ngayon, itong shared option, so this is only a right granted to an officer or even an employee of the entity. Okay, so ibig sabihin, ang binibigay na services nito mga empleyado na to, the service, regular services that they provide the entity. Pero dahil based nga sa definition na banggit na, kaya nagbibigay ng ganitong bonus agreement ang isang entity, it's because they want that this employee will stay in the company or even it wants that these employees will help them to improve their entity's performance. So, gaya nga ni nabanggit ko kanina, it's only a right but not an obligation. So parang bibigyan kita ng option, share option, you will be given an option to purchase a shares of stock. Diba? Ayaw mo nun, employee ka, pero you are providing services to the entity, tapos bibigyan ka ng option, hey, okay, pag damit mo ito, then pwede kang bumili ng shares of stock ng ating entity. Okay? So one thing that you need also to need is what we so called the fair value of the option. okay, which is presumed as the fair value of the services received and is recorded as expense over the period of the services are received. So, itong fair value of the option later is very important. Okay, so paano po nakukompute yan? So, it will have a separate discussion on your um, accounting for the valuations, no? So, pwedeng manggaling itong fair value options na to using some option pricing model. Okay? So, mangyayari dito sa ating throughout discussion would be given na, o kaya naman, kung hindi given, there would be other way how we could get the fair value of the option. Okay? So, gagamitin natin yan at take note recorded as expense during the period. So, mamaya pag nag-compute na tayo, itong fair value ng option na to will not just be attributable only to one date. It will be spread out towards dun sa tinatawag natin na vesting period. Okay? So, third bullet, if the share options vest immediately, okay? So, ano ulit yung vest natin? Pag na-meet na yung condition. Diba? Okay? If the share option vests immediately, the entity shall presume that the services granted have been received, thus the value of the option is immediately recognized as compensation expense. So, kanina nabanggit ko that throughout the vesting period, okay, so kailangan ma-meet yung condition. So, let's say it could be a time condition o kaya naman a performance condition. So, pag um, hangga't hindi pa na natin nami-meet yon, then we will spread out. Yun yung second bullet. Pero itong third bullet, kapag na-meet mo na agad yung condition, then i-recognize mo na siya agad as expense. Sir, bakit po may expense? Mamaya, we will talk about that on the entries. Okay? If the options does not vest immediately, meaning hindi pa na-fulfill yung condition, then the value of the option is amortized as compensation expense over the vesting period. So parang yun din yung nabanggit ko kanina on the second bullet. So these are just theoretical, no? Items na kailangan natin. Mamaya meron pa mga theoretical basis. Although nabanggit ko na rin naman kanina yung about sa vesting condition, di ba? So this is a condition that needs to be met in order for a particular supplier of services to receive kung ano man dapat yung ma-receive niya. Nabanggit din kanina on the terminologies definitions wherein we have either service or performance conditions. So isa-isahin lang natin to so that later on as we use them, then we could really understand them. So the first condition is all about service condition. So ito po, nabanggit ko that when we talk about service condition, we need to fulfill a certain time, okay, that we need to be employed in the entity bago natin ma-achieve yung condition na yon. So let's say for example, no, ng service condition, you need to stay within the 3-year period of time or more to the entity, pero technically 3 lang yon kasi yun yung vesting period. Okay? So pag nag-stay ka, then you will receive these options. Okay? So that's an example of a service condition. O hindi ibig sabihin na service condition yan paramihan ng trabaho, hindi. Okay, usually it is based on the length of time. Okay, na kailangan mong i-meet so that you can fulfill the vesting conditions. Okay, so ngayon naman we have what is so-called performance condition. So performance condition are segregated into two. Now we have the non-market condition at saka market condition. So pag pinag-usapan natin yung market condition, so this is based on target share price. Market conditions are based on target share price. Kaya siya market kasi we're talking about the shares dito. So let's say for example, ng condition na to, okay, pag na-meet ng shares natin yung kanyang value na selling price which is 200 pesos, then that's already the start of the exercise period. Okay, so ibig sabihin na-meet natin, nag-vest yung particular conditions na yon if na-meet yung target share price. Okay, so samantalang kapag non-market naman, so it may include yung revenues, your profit, or even the earnings per share. So limawa, sir, bakit yung profit yun at saka revenue, bakit hindi siya market? Kasi ang pinagkaiba nga, ang market, it's all about the share price lang. Ngayon, kapag hindi siya based on share price, such as revenues, profit, or earnings per share, then non-market lahat sila. Okay, so example nung non-market condition based on revenue. Okay, so pag na-achieve natin yung 5 million na sales, then pwede tayong mag-vest na. Okay, or ma-fulfill yung condition. O kaya naman, pag na-achieve natin yung, let's say, 10 million na profit, then magbe-vest na. So those are just certain vesting conditions that we will understand later kapag nasa mga problems na tayo. So any question? Nabanggit ko din na on the previous slides about vesting conditions. So ngayon, in our next slides, no, isi-segregate natin yung discussion natin as the vesting condition na mamimit yung service condition, performance condition, whether market or non-market conditions. So let's first have the share options. Okay, may confusion pa ba sa definition ng share options? So these are options or the rights, no, to purchase an entity's shares which were given to employees. Okay? And kapag sinabing service condition, it means we need to meet a specified period of time bago tayo mag-vests. No? Okay, so based on this bullet number 1, if the share options were granted, vests based on completion of a specified period of services, so yun na yung condition, the amount of compensation expense should be spread out over the service or vesting period. Okay, so nabanggit na rin to on the previous slide na kapag meron tayong particular na options, it needs to spread out over or amortize over the period of time. So, itong period of time na yun yung vesting period natin. Okay? So, sabi rin dito that the amount of compensation expense shall be based on the fair value of the options at the date of grant. So, kaya important yung date of grant natin kanina. It's because on that date, no, doon manggagaling yung ating fair value of the options which will be the basis of amortizing yung ating compensation expense. So to give you an example about share options that vest based on service conditions, so on January 1, 2019, the Red Hat company established a share option plan for its 4 senior employees. So a total of 30,000 options or 75 options each. So ito yung binigay ng entity to the 4 senior employees, okay, were granted that permit said employees to purchase 30,000 shares of 20 pesos par at 35. So nabanggit mo kanina that share options is a right to purchase some number of shares. So also in continuing the problem, options are exercisable between January 1, 2022 and can be exercised anytime on January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2023. Okay, so January 1, 2019, the market price of the share option was 8 pesos based on an option pricing model used by the entity. So on the illustration below, to summarize the detail of this problem of Red Hat Company, so on January 1, 2019, wherein doon nagkaroon ng established option plan, so that is known as our date of grant. Tapos, di ba, ang sabi, kailan po ma-exercise? January 22. January 1, 2022. So what will happen here would be the date from January 1, 2019 up to January 1, 2022, which is technically, pag binilang mo, 2019, 20, and 21. Kasi 22 na yung exercise, 3 years. So that's now your vesting period. Okay? So tapos, from January 1, 2022 up to its expiration date na December 31, 2023, which is actually 2 years, yun naman yung exercise period. So since you're talking about share options at saka kailangan natin mag-recognize ng expense, okay, now we will spread it out based on the service condition na 3 years. So, kailangan magstay ng employees, not only 3 years actually pero yung vesting period kasi natin naka 3 years lang. Okay, so 3 years, within 3 years, pag nagstay yung 4 senior employees sa entity, then they will now exercise. Of course naman, kung isipin nyo, if they will just have it in 3 years, tapos magre-resign na sila, edi hindi nila ma-exercise. Tama ba? Okay, so these are the details na kailangan tandaan ha. Okay, and also 8 pesos yung fair value na option natin at the date of grant na January 1, 2019. So to journalize the Red Hat companies as a problem, no? So on January 1, 2019, which is the date of grant, take note, pag date of grant, wala tayong formal accounting entry, so it will only be a memorandum entry. So the memorandum entry natin would be granted options for senior employees to purchase 30,000 shares of 20 peso par value ordinary share at 35 per share. No? The options were exercisable anytime from January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2023. So this is an example of a memorandum entry on the date of grant. Now, the first formal journal entry will be introduced, okay, on December 31, 2019. Okay, sir, bakit magkakaroon tayo ng entry on December 31, 2019? Kasi kung naalala niyo binanggit kanina, no, the compensation expense related to this share options needs to be spread out over the vesting period. So, ang vesting period kasi natin is from 2019 up to 2021. Okay? So, for 2019, no, ang magiging entry natin is debit compensation expense, 80,000. Okay? Then, credit share options outstanding. So, itong share options outstanding na title na to, this is actually a paid-in account, no? Another paid-in account. Now, paano na-compute yung 80,000? So, ang 80,000 ho ay mo nagmula mula doon sa 30,000 options natin, di ba? Na nabanggit sa previous slide na yung 30,000 option na yun ay gagamitin to purchase 30,000 shares. So, options po yung gagamitin natin. So, we have 30,000 options times the fair value of 8 pesos at the date of grant times 1/3. Sir, bakit 1/3? Kasi this is the first year, 2019 is the first year of the 3-year vesting period. So, dahil 1 year pa lang yun tatapos, so we will just get the 1/3 of it, no, which is 80,000. Okay? So at the end of this year, we will have a share options outstanding to be presented on our stockholders equity section na 80,000. Okay? Clear tayo doon? Okay. So next year now, which is 2020, so still we need to recognize kasi vesting period pa rin to, no? Second year. So debit tayo ng compensation expense, 80,000, and credit share options outstanding, 80,000. Dahil wala naman nagbago on the second year, supposed to be we just simply copy the 80,000 mula sa 2019, pero just to show you some certain computations, no, about it, na para magamit din natin on other problems. So it will be 30,000 options times 8 pesos times 2/3. Sir, bakit 2/3? Kasi second year na siya. Ngayon, that's equal now to 160. Yung 160,000, yun yung kabuuan for the 2 years. But since nag-record na tayo ng 80,000 nung last year, so yung 160 na kabuuan ng options outstanding, no, for the second year minus the 80,000 last time. So for 2020, we will just only have 80,000, no, na share options outstanding to be recorded in 2020. So kaya yung 80 ng 2019 plus 80 ng 2020, the ending balance now for December 31, 2020 na share options outstanding is 160,000 already. Okay? And lastly, for the end of the vesting period, di ba 3 taon lang naman yon. So we debit compensation expense, credit share options outstanding. So same pa rin kasi wala naman nagbago, walang nag-resign, no? So what will happen if you want to compute it separately, that's 30,000 share options times 8 pesos na option price times 3/3 kasi third year na siya. So, ang total cumulative na share options outstanding should be 240,000. Tapos minus, di ba, in the last 2 years, may 160 na tayong kabuuan. So, in 2021, we will have as well 80,000. So, nagkataon lang na pare-pareha sila kasi wala naman nag-resign, walang nagbago. Okay? So, still, ang ginagamit pa rin na fair value is the 8 peso na fair value at the date of grant. So, kahit bigyan kayo ng fair value ng option ng 2020 or 2021, hindi magbabago yung ating fair value at the date of grant, which is 8 pesos. So, to continue it, let's check on the next slide. So, natapos na kanina yung entries about the vesting period, no? Ngayon naman, ang next set of entries natin is all about the exercise na. So I just put up various scenarios, no, for us to understand ano yung magiging entry kapag na-exercise lahat, hindi na-exercise, or what will happen, no, dun sa mga entries natin. So, unahin ko lang, first scenario, okay, continuing yung problem ni Red Hat, okay, is that all of the options were exercised. So, na-exercise lahat ng options. So, bumili ngayon yung apat na employees ng shares at lahat ng yon ginamit nila. So, our entry would be debit share options outstanding 240,000. Sir, saan nakuha yan? Yun yung ending balance ng 2021 na um, 240,000, no? And then we debit cash na 1,050,000. So, saan na-compute yun? Yung na-receive ng entity na cash? Kasi magbabayad yung mga employee. Gawa nga ng we give them the option to purchase shares of stock. Diba? Na 30,000 share times yung purchase price na binigay doon sa problem na 35 pesos. Okay, kaya yun yung cash natin. Then we credit ordinary share capital, 30,000 shares times 20, which is yung par value ng share natin. So ang ordinary share capital ay 600,000. Then the excess will be 690,000 going to the ordinary share premium. So yan yung entry kapag lahat ay na-exercise. Okay? Lahat ng options sa exercise. Now, what if all of the options expires? So, meaning, hindi in-avail ni employee, no, yung mga options na yon to purchase. So, mangyari lang would be just like what would happen to the share warrants or share rights kanina, no? We will just transfer hindi, share ano lang pala, share warrants, no? I-transfer natin yung share options outstanding na 240,000, okay, going to another paid-in capital account from an exercise options na 240,000. So, ililipat lang natin siya ng paid-in capital account. Kasi nga, di ba, ang share option outstanding is already a paid-in capital account. Okay? So, yan ay pag nag-expire lahat. Now, what if, no? So, let's assume, no, na hindi lahat nung binigay na 30,000 option ay ginamit, no? Some maybe have chosen na mag-purchase using a smaller number of amount of options. So, hindi ibig sabihin na yun yung binigay sa'yo, gagamitin mo lahat, ha? You have the option to use how many number of those share options. So let's say in this last scenario, now we have only 25,000 share options were exercised and the rest expires. So papakita ko sa inyo ano yung mangyayari dun sa in-exercise, ano mangyayari doon sa hindi na-exercise. So para muna dun sa na-exercise, so we debit share options outstanding. Kanina to 40,000 yung totality nun. Eh dahil 25,000 share options lang ang ating na-exercise, so i-allocate lang natin siya. So, debit share options outstanding na 200,000 based on the 240,000 na totality times 25,000 options over 30,000 options. Okay? Then, we debit cash. So, yung cash natin is 25,000 shares kasi 25,000 options yung nagamit, 1:1. Okay, times 35 pesos, the selling price of the share. So, 875,000. Then credit ordinary share capital, 25,000 share times 20 pesos, so 500 pesos or 500,000 pesos. Then lastly, ordinary share premium of 575,000. So yan yung entry about the 25 na share options na na-exercise. Ngayon, para sa nag-expire, remember, ang nagamit lang doon sa na-exercise is 200,000 na share options outstanding. So, the rest will now expire. So, yung excess na 40,000, so that will be debit to share options outstanding, 40,000, and credit paid in capital from an exercise option, now 40,000. Okay, so ito yung mangyayari kapag hindi po na-exercise lahat. Okay? Certain portion lang. Any question? Okay, so another example. Kung kanina sa example number 1, lahat ng mga employees ay nagstay. sa entity, kaya wala na bago doon sa mga values. Okay, ngayon naman, using the same problem, however, in 2020, one of the 4 senior employees resigned. So, again, this is example number 2, one employee resigned. Sa example number 1 kanina, walang employee na nag-resign. Okay, so same pa rin yung ating illustration about the grant date, the exercise, at saka yung vesting period natin. Okay, ang nagbago lang ay nag-resign yung isang employee. Now, let's take into look ano yung mangyayari sa 2020 kapag nag-resign na yung one employee. So on the date of grant of January 1, 2019, same pa rin, we will record only a memorandum entry. Okay? So tignan natin yung mga entries throughout the vesting period, ano yung mangyari. So on December 31, 2019, okay, so our entry would be debit compensation expense, 80,000, then credit share options outstanding, 80,000. Okay, same computation kanina na 30,000, share options times 8 peso na fair value of the option at the date of grant times 1/3 kasi first year pa lang, so 80,000. So at the end of 2019, the share options outstanding, which is also a paid in capital account, presented in the stockholders equity section at 80,000. Okay, now, as you remembered in 2020 or during 2020, nag-resign yung one of the employee. So tatlo na lang ang natitira. Now, how will it affect no yung ating computations? So our entry would be debit compensation expense 40,000 na lang from the 80,000 and credit share options outstanding 40,000. Now, bakit naging 40,000? So here's the computation. 'Di ba 30,000 yung share options para sa lahat ng apat na employee. Now, if one have already resigned, which is equivalent to 7.5, so ang natitirang option na lang as of 2020 is 22,500. Am I correct? Now, yung 22,500 na yon multiplied by 8 peso na option price, okay, times 2/3. So, ang totality na lang at the end of 2020 should be 120,000, di ba? Eh, na-recognize mo na ng 2019 yung 80,000. Kaya 120,000 in totality minus 80,000 is equal to, okay, 40,000 na lang. So, that's the reason why on our entry, 40,000 lang for the year 2020. Okay? Clear? Okay. So now, at the end of 2020, just to show you magkano yung balance ng share options outstanding, so it's 120,000 pesos. Okay. Will it also affect in 2021 yung pagre-resign? Let's see. No, our entry for 2021 is debit compensation expense, 60,000, credit share options outstanding, 60,000. So how did we compute? Again, in 2021, tatlo na lang natitira, kaya 22,500 options lang yung meron para sa kanilang tatlong employees, no, times 8 peso na fair value of the option, times 3/3 kasi third year na. So in totality, we have a cumulative balance of 180,000 pesos, no? Minus yung mga na-record na natin ng 2020 and 2019 na total na 120,000. So for 2021, we have a totality na lang of 60,000 to be recorded. So kaya 60,000 yung nasa entry. So pag tinanong magkano yung balance ng share options outstanding, no, on December 31, 2021, so that's already 180,000. Okay? So yung 180,000, yan yung gagamitin natin mamaya if ma-exercise man or hindi. Kasi so let's take a look into the next slide for the various scenarios about the exercise. Any question? So continuing with example number 2, no? Okay. So ngayon pag-usapan na lang natin is about the exercise entries, no? So we have again various scenarios. So in scenario 1, what if all of the options were exercised? So ang entry natin would be debit share options outstanding, 180,000 kasi yun yung ending balance ng 2021. Then we debit cash, no? We have only 22,500 shares na na-exercise. So times 35 pesos na exercise price. So that's 787,500. Then we credit ordinary share capital for the 22,500 shares times 20 pesos, so for 50,000. And we credit ordinary share premium at 500, 17,500. So, ang nagbago lang actually dito is yung number of shares plus yung share options outstanding din, no? Pero yung format ng entry, same lang nung kaninang example number 1. Okay, what if all of the options were expired, no? Transfer lang ulit tayo from one paid-in capital account to another paid-in capital. So our entry would be debit share options outstanding na 180,000 and we credit paid-in capital from unexercised options 180,000. Okay? So any question? Lastly, for example number 2, no? Scenario number 3 natin, what if only 20,000 share options were used to exercise, tapos the rest expire. So remember, dahil nag-resign yung isa, 22,500 na lang yung options dapat, pero 20,000 options lang yung na-exercise, so may nag-expire na 25. Ano yung entries? So for the entry ng exercise, we debit share options outstanding. Okay, na 160,000. So, saan nanggaling yon? That's 180,000 na totality ng share options outstanding times 20,000 share options divided by the totality of 22,500 na options. Okay? Tapos, we debit cash, 20,000 lang yung options na exercise. So, 20,000 shares lang yon times 35. So, that's equal to 700,000. Okay? Then we credit ordinary share capital, so 20,000 shares times 20 pesos na par, so 400,000. And we credit ordinary share premium na 460,000. So that's the entry for the exercise. And lastly, para dun sa part na hindi na exercise, remember, the share options outstanding has a totality of 180,000. Nung in-exercise, nagamit natin 160. So we have a remaining amount of 20,000 or other computation is yung 180,000 times 2,500 options na natira divided by 22,500, so 20,000. So we debit share options outstanding 20,000 and we credit paid in capital from unexercised options 20,000. So these are some examples about, again, the share options that vest based on service condition, but one of the employee have resigned or meron tayong resignation. Sa example number 1 kanina, walang resignation. So we have another terminology that we can use, no, in this discussion of share options. So we have intrinsic value. Okay. So let's define first as per standard anong intrinsic value. So it is a difference daw between the fair value of shares to which the counterparty has the conditional or unconditional right to subscribe, or which it has the right to receive, and the price, if any, the counterparty is required to pay for those shares. So example ng intrinsic value ay, okay, let's say for example, the share option can be exercised at 20 peso with a fair value of 25, no? So ang intrinsic value is 5 pesos. So bakit ba natin ginagamit itong term na intrinsic value na to? Okay, in rare cases lang na yung market value ng options cannot be reliably measured. So kanina kasi on the previous examples, diba, nabanggit natin na kailangan ang basis natin is the fair value of the option. Now, what if the fair value of the option is not given or cannot be determined reliably? So we will use this intrinsic value. Okay? So ang intrinsic value is the excess of the fair values, okay, over the exercise price. Okay? Klaro tayo doon. So ngayon, the next example would discuss to us paano itong gamit ng intrinsic value. Okay? Ulitin ko, gagamit lang ng intrinsic value hindi natin kayang identify yung market value ng share options. But the priority still is the market value of the option kapag nandun yung market value of the option. The use of the intrinsic value. So let's have this problem. On January 2, 2019, the shareholder of King Company approved a plan that grants the company's 3 executives no options, okay, of 4,000 each option. So bali, sa kabuuan ng tatlo, 12,000 option yon to purchase 4,000 shares each. So 12,000 shares din para dun sa tatlo of the company's 25 par value ordinary share at 30 pesos. So yung 30 pesos is eventually that's the exercise price. Okay, the options are granted on January to 2019 and may be exercised anytime from January 1, 2021 up to December 31, 2022. The fair value at the date of grant cannot be measured reliably, so it triggers now that we will use the intrinsic value. Okay, but the market price of each ordinary share was 45 on January 1, 2019, 48 on December 31, 2019, and 50 pesos on December 31, 2020. Assume that no executive left the company during the vesting years. Okay? So to have the illustration lang ulit ng mga terminologies, no? The date of grant is January 2, 2019. Okay? Then we have the vesting period, which is 2 years. Kasi ma-exercise daw yung ating option on January 1, 2021. Okay? Then exercise period is 2 years, which will end on December 31, 2022. So tandaan nyo ha, the exercise price is 30 pesos. On December 31, 48 ang fair value. At saka 50 pesos yung 2020 na market price of each ordinary share. So the date of grant was on January to 2019. So also we need to provide for the memorandum entry only at the date of grant. So ito yung memorandum entry natin, flash on the slide. Okay. Ngayon, at the end of the year, no, the first vesting year. Okay, naalala nyo kanina ilan yung years ng vesting year natin? Actually, dalawa. Dalawa lang. Kasi it's 2019 and 2020 because it is exercisable already in 2021. Okay, now. So, on December 31, 2019, dahil wala ngayong fair value ng option, gagamitin natin intrinsic value. At ano ulit ang computation ng intrinsic value? That's the excess of the exercise price over the fair value of or market value of the shares at that particular period. So, I will just show you first the computation. So, the total options granted was 12,000. So, yung 4,000 per executive times 3 sila, 12,000. Then we multiply, supposed to be, multiply natin dyan fair value of the option. Eh dahil wala nga, we will use the intrinsic value which is coming from, okay, yung 48 pesos. Ano yung 48 pesos? That's the market price at December 31, 2019 less the 30 pesos which is the exercise price. Sir, bakit hindi natin pinakialaman yung value ng January 1, 2019? Okay? Kasi hindi naman siya gamit-gamit, no? We already stated kanina that we will use is the exercise price. Okay, so ang excess which is intrinsic value is 18 pesos. So yung total value ng option natin is 216,000. So that's coming from 12,000 times 18 pesos na intrinsic value. So in 216,000, no, yun yung i-allocate natin doon sa 2-year vesting period. So times 1 over 12, kasi this is the first year still, no, over 2. So the compensation expense for the year 2019 is 108,000. So the entry would be debit compensation expense, 108,000, and we credit share options outstanding, 108,000. Okay, nagets yung intrinsic value. So parang yung intrinsic value lang yung nabago dito, no? The vesting condition na service condition na 2 years naman is your kumbaga gagamitin na pang spread out dong ating value of the option. So at the end of December 31, 2019, share options outstanding is 108,000. So let's take a look on December 31, 2020 naman, ano yung entry. To continue with our entry for the vesting period, no, the last year of the vesting period is December 31, 2020. So let's show first saan manggagaling yung value natin. So our total options granted is still 12,000 options kasi wala naman nag-resign na employee. Okay, then the intrinsic value, ngayon nagbago pong intrinsic value for 2020. Why? Because number one, no, our fair value of the shares had gone up to 50 pesos, okay, per share. So ang intrinsic value na ngayon is 50 pesos minus the 30 pesos na exercise price. So 20 pesos na po ang intrinsic value. So the total value of the option as of the end of 2020 should have been 240,000 times 2 over 2 kasi nga it's second year na rin po ng vesting period natin. Okay, so the cumulative balance supposed to be of the share options outstanding is 240,000 pesos. Now, previously in 2019, dun sa last slide natin, okay, we have already recognized 108,000, no, 108,000 compensation expense. So we will deduct that from the 240,000 to arrive for the compensation expense for 2020 na 132,000. So remember, pag intrinsic value ang ginagamit natin, there is a possibility na talaga magbabago siya per year. Why? Because of the changes in the fair value of the shares, since that would be our basis for the excess na magiging intrinsic value. Now, for our entry on December 31, 2020, we debit compensation expense 132,000 and we credit share options outstanding 132,000, which will now give us that the ending balance of the share options outstanding on December 31, 2020 is 240,000. So na-compute yun, yung 180 na 108 rather na na-compute doon 2019 plus 132 ngayon 2020. So that's 240,000. So we will use that for the exercise entries on the next slide. So in continuation pa rin dun sa entry about King Company, no? So scenario number 1, no? What if all of the options were exercised? So what will be the entry? So we debit share options outstanding, yung cumulative natin kanina na 240,000. Then we debit cash. So we have 12,000 shares to be exercised times 30 na exercise price. So that's 360,000. So credit ordinary share capital na 12,000 shares times 25 na par value. So 300,000. Then the premium will be 300,000. So that's the entry if all of the options were exercised. Now, what if all of the options naman were not exercised, no, or nag-expire? So that's on scenario 2. So again, this is only a mere transfer of one paid-in capital to another paid-in capital account. So we debit share options outstanding na 240,000 and we credit paid-in capital from an exercised option. Our last scenario ng example number 3. So only 10,000 share options out of the 12,000 share options were exercised and the rest, which is 2,000 option, had expired. Okay, so the entry would be debit share options outstanding na 200,000. So saan nanggaling yon? Out of the total share options outstanding na 240,000 times, okay, 10,000 share options lang yun na exercise all over the total number of options, which is 12,000, kaya naging 200,000. Then we debit cash, so we have 10,000 shares times 30 pesos na par, so the cash is 300,000. Then we credit ordinary share capital na 10,000 shares times 25 peso, so that would be 250,000. And we credit the ordinary share premium at 250,000. So yan yung entry dun sa part ng exercise. Ngayon, para sa mga nag-expire, so remember, 240 yung totality. 200,000 yung entry ng share options outstanding sa exercise. Ngayon, we have still remaining 40,000. So yun lang ito-transfer natin to another paid-in capital account. So we debit share options outstanding, 40,000, and we credit paid-in capital from an exercise option, 40,000, which is also computed by 240,000 times 2,000 share options na nag-expire all over the totality na 12,000 share options. So this is our example, last example about service condition at saka about intrinsic value. Any question, guys, about service condition? Okay, none? Okay, let's proceed with another topic. We're done with the service condition, but although tapos na tayo doon, mamaya gagamitin natin siya in conjunction with performance conditions. Okay, so let's first focus on performance conditions. So as discussed a while ago, performance conditions are usually based on market or non-market performance conditions. So let's again redefine them. So a non-market based performance conditions are conditions upon which the exercise price, vesting, or exercisability of an equity instrument depends usually related to the specific growth rate of revenue or profit, achieving a specific increase in earnings per share, or vesting based on non-financial targets. So, na-mention ko kanina na pag non-market condition, they are other than the share price. Kaya nga nag-focus tayo sa revenue or sales or even the profit sa earnings per share or non-financial targets. So mamaya we will have examples about non-market conditions. Now, pag market condition, it is mainly focused on the exercisability or even the conditions that would be related to the market price of the entity's equity instruments, such as attaining a specified market price or specified amount of intrinsic value of share options. So it's more on the market price pag market-based performance conditions. So these were the two performance conditions basis natin na gagamitin natin in conjunction with service conditions. So, unahin natin yung non-market conditions, no? Again, non-market conditions are those non share price conditions, okay, such as revenues, okay, profit or earnings per share basis. So, under a non-market condition, no, the amount recognized for services received during the vesting period shall be based on the number of employees that will complete the required number of services. So yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na kahit tapos na tayo sa service condition, mayroon pa rin component ng service condition dito sa performance condition and on the achievement of the non-market condition. Okay? So, the entity shall revise the estimate when necessary if subsequent information indicates that the number of share option expected to vest differs on previous estimate. So dahil nga meron tayong some basis about non-market na mga conditions, then kapag nagkakaroon ng changes, kagaya ng mga previous example kanina sa service conditions, then we need to adapt on those changes. So again, our focus would be on revenue or sales o kaya naman profit or earnings per share. So let's try to take into look paano po yun nangyayari kapag may market condition or sorry, non-market conditions. So let's have the first example, okay, which is already example number 4 na pala in this series of examples, no, for a non-market based performance condition. So dito sa example na to, we will be using revenue as a non-market condition. Okay, so let me read. So on January 1, 2019, Bloody Red Corporation issued its CEO share options for the purchase of the company's 45,000 ordinary share par value at a strike price of 50. So yung strike price na 50, that's actually still the same with the exercise price na 50 pesos. So the options are exercisable beginning January 1, 2022. So ang ating vesting period is 2019, 2020, 2021. So 3 years ang vesting period natin. Okay? Kaya dahil nagbigin din ang exercisability on 2022, January 1, and it will expire on December 31, 2022. The options may be exercised only if the officer is still in the employ of the company at the date of exercise. Okay? So may condition na service, ayan, no? So it's exercisable if the officer is still employed. Service condition. The share options are valued at 30 pesos based on the option pricing model. Yes, we have the fair value here of the option, which is 30 pesos. So the number of shares granted will be based on the following level of sales for the year 2021. So meron tayong mga level of sales and the number of options na number of shares and share options that would be attained by that sales level or revenue level. So, okay, tignan nyo na lang. So, below 30 million, so 0 makukuha. 30 million to 50 million, 10 million. Then, over 50 million, 15,000. Okay, and then over 70 million, we have 18,000 shares. So, 0, 10,000 shares, 15,000, 18,000. So, yung number of share natin hindi definite. Compared kanina na medyo definite tayo because of the fact na given na siya. No, ilan lang options na given. Ngayon, nakabase sa target sales natin or revenue. So, bakit po ganyan yung nangyari? Bakit tinarget nila based on sales or revenue? Kasi, maybe ang thinking din ng entity dito is that the higher the sales na makuha nila, the higher yung bibigay sa employee. So, it's a win-win situation, no? Mataas yung sales ng company, at the same time, mataas din yung number of options na ibibigay para doon sa mga employees. Okay, so, estimates of sales for 2021 were as follows, no? On January 1, 2019, in-estimate na 35 million yung sales natin. December 31, 2019, 52 million. Okay, so 2020, December 31, 70 million. And then actual sales in 2021 were 75 million. So yan yung mga given na ano natin, data. So please take a look on that. No? Kasi we'll proceed now on the entries related to this. So we have a vesting condition na non-market na nakabase sa sales. Okay? Tapos you have also here a service condition which will be spread out over the 3-year vesting period. So similar sa kaninang mga examples, at the date of grant, we will just have memorandum entry. Okay, so we have the memorandum entry flash on the screen. So our next focus would be on our December 31, 2019. Okay, so on December 31, 2019, we need to adjust for the compensation expense. Now, what would be our basis? Remember, our sales for 2019, okay, is estimated to be at million. 52 million. Okay, so ngayon, on that 52 million, pag tinignan nyo siya sa table ng level of sales at saka number of options, it would fall under the over 50 up to 70 million, which will give us to exercise 15,000 share options, no? So kaya nandito in our computation, 15,000 share options, okay? So multiplied it with the fair value of the option kanina na 30 pesos times 1 over 3. Bakit po 1 over 3? Kasi nga ho, it's the first year of the 3-year vesting period, kaya 150,000. Again, the 15,000 share options comes from the expected sale nung December 31, 2019 na 52 million. Okay? Then taking into account the table, nasa over 50 to 70 million siya, kaya 15,000 share options ang binigay. Okay? So that's for 2019, and the ending balance of the share options outstanding for 2019 to be presented in the shareholders' equity is 150,000. Any question? Wala? Okay. So next year, December 31, 2020, so the level of sales natin is 70 million. So still, pag tinignan mo sa table, nasa 15,000 share options pa rin siya. So nothing changes on the share options, no? Kaya on 2020, we have 15,000 share options times 30 na fair value of the option times 2 over 3 kasi second year na siya of the 3-year vesting period. So the cumulative balance should be 300,000. And na-record na natin yung 150 ng 2019, kaya 150,000 ulit for the year 2020. So debit compensation expense, 150,000, and credit share options outstanding, 150,000. So on December 31, 2020, the ending balance of the share options outstanding is 300,000. Okay? Any question? Wala? So now, the last year of the vesting period, which is December 31, 2021, kasi January 1, 2022 ang exercise period natin. Okay, so as you can see and notice, the actual sales na daw is 75 million. So dahil nag-shoot up yung sales ng 75 million, yung number of share options na grant na bale will now go to 18,000. So it will change now everything in our computation. Kaya 18,000 share options multiplied by 30 pesos na fair value of the option times 3 over 3 since third year na siya. So that's a total cumulative balance of 540,000. Okay, minus the previously recognized na 300,000 rather, okay, for 2019 and 2020. Kaya for 2021, 240,000 pa ang kailangan nating i-recognize. So kaya ang entry would be debit compensation expense, 240,000, and we credit share options outstanding, 240,000. Okay? Nagets? Okay, nagbago kasi yung level of sales natin, kaya nabago rin yung share options, which will give us now various amounts na ng compensation expense. Pero last naman na to eh. So on December 31, 2021, the balance of the share options outstanding to be presented in the balance sheet is now 540,000. So tandaan yan ha. Any question? So na lang tayo, no? Assuming that all of the options were exercised on November 15, 2022. So na-exercise lahat ng 18,000 share options. So what's the entry? We debit share options outstanding, yung ending balance kanina na 540,000. Then we debit cash. 18,000 yung share options na meron tayo, which will give us also 18,000 shares, no, times 50 pesos, which is the par value, or sorry, that's the strike price pala, 50 pesos, or the selling price of the share. So 18,000 times 50 pesos, it's 900,000 na cash. Then we credit ordinary share capital, so the 18,000 shares times the 45 na par value ng share natin, so 810,000, and we credit ordinary share premium na 630,000. So this is our entry to record the exercise of all of the options. So ang nagbago lang was how we recompute for the compensation expense, no, using the basis of our revenue. Any question? So another example ngayon naman is non-market condition based on profit. Okay. So on January 1, 2020, Red Day Company granted 80 share options to each of its 400 employees. So ilang totality ng share options ang nabigay nila? It's a total of what? 32,000 share options for the 400 employees for the purchase of 100 par ordinary share at 140 pesos. So the 140 pesos is the strike price or the exercise price. The employees are required to be employed in the entity for at least until the options vested. So that's the service condition. The share option will vest as follows. So ito ngayon yung mga non-market-based conditions naman. So, magbe-vest siya if, pag sinabi magbe-vest, pwede na tayo mag-exercise after it, no? So, end of 2020, kapag na hit niya yung profit na nag-increase by 15%, okay? And on the end of 2021, if the average profit during 2020 and 2021 increased by 12%. So yun yung mga target natin, no, about the profit. Now, the company reported an increase in the profit of 13%. So hindi niya na-meet in 2020 yung target na 15%. So hindi pa nag-best ng 2020 mamaya sa entries natin. And at December 31, 2020, it was expected that the earnings during 2021 would increase by 13%. So during 2021, reported a profit increased in by 12%. So eventually, pag titignan natin, no, in 2021, dahil average yung kinukuha, so 13 yung increase in 2020 at saka 12% in 2021. So pag in-average natin, it's 12.5. So na-hit na yung target at the end of 2021. Okay? So no employees left the company during the 2-year period of 2020 and 2021. All options were exercised during 2020. Okay? And the fair value of the option is 22 pesos. Okay? So yan yung data na kailangan natin. Any question? So on our date of grant, which is January 1, 2020, so still, no, we have the memorandum entry. Now, let's go to December 31, 2020. Since naalala ninyo that the data gives us na hindi na-hit yung target, okay, ng 2020, supposed to be 15 yung target, pero 13% lang. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa nag-best, okay, yung ating share options. So our computations for or compensation expense in 2020 is the 400 employees multiplied by the 80 share option, which is a total of 32,000 share options multiplied by the option price, which is 22 pesos, di ba, yung fair value kanina at the date of grant. So it's a totality of 704,000. Then times 1 over 2. Sir, bakit 1 over 2? Kasi di ba it needs to be employed up to the end of 2021. So 2 years yung vesting period. And since first year pa lang to, kaya 1 over 12. 1 over 2 rather. So the compensation expense for 2020 is 352,000. So we debit compensation expense 352,000 and credit share options outstanding 352,000. So on December 31, 2020, share options outstanding is an ending balance of 352,000. Okay? So on December 31, 2021, dahil doon na-hit na yung target natin, di ba? Na-hit na yung target kasi supposed to be the target was 12%, pero dahil nung in-average ng 2021 at saka 2020 na earnings, it's 12.5, so na-hit na. Pero the compensation expense for 2021 will be the same with 2020. Okay, debit compensation expense 352,000 and credit share options outstanding 352,000. So computed pa rin as 704,000 times 2 over 2. Okay, minus the 352,000 na na-record noong 2020. Okay? Kaya ang ending balance on December 31, 2021 ng share options outstanding is still a total of 704,000 na. If the options were exercised on November 15, 2022, so here is our entry. So debit tayo ng share options outstanding, 704,000. So yun yung ending balance kanina on 2021. Then we debit cash na 4,480,000. Okay, so which is computed based on the 32,000 share options, which can be used to purchase 32,000 shares times 140 pesos na strike price or the purchase price, no? Then we credit ordinary share capital, 32,000 shares times 10, 100 pesos, so that's 3,200,000. And we credit ordinary share premium na 1,984,000 for the excess. So that's how we account for using the non-market condition na profit. Okay, any question? Okay, so last part of this discussion is all about attaining naman market conditions. So nabanggit na kanina na pag market conditions, we are merely using the share price as the basis for our vesting condition. Okay, so pag na-meet yung share price na yon, then we need to give already the exercise privilege to the employees. So if the grant of share options is based on market performance features, the best estimate of the length of vesting period is made at the date of grant. So meron pa rin po tayong vesting period here, no, which will give us the service condition, while the number of employees expected to be entitled of the option shall be estimated at the end of the reporting period. So kagaya ng ginawa natin kanina, anything about this condition, inestimate natin at the end of accounting period, ilan yung achievable na number of shares, no? Dito naman, the entitlement is also based on the end of the reporting period. Now, compensation expense is recorded at the end of each vesting year, irrespective of whether that market condition is satisfied, but considering all other vesting conditions such as service conditions. So, ang goal lang naman dito is ma-achieve yung share price na yon para mag-vest. Okay, so dapat bago matapos yung or even until the end of the vesting period, dapat na-achieve natin yung share price na yon para makuha ni employee yung or ma-exercise na employee yung kanyang share options. So let's try to look sa example natin how this market condition works. Let's have this example, no? On January 1, 2019, Cherry Red Company issued 10,000 share options for the purchase of 100 par value ordinary share at a strike price of 120 to its key employees. The share options vest anytime once that the share reached 200 pesos up Okay, so meaning 200 or up, no, on December 31, 2021. So up to December 31, 2021, which gives us the vesting year na 2019, 20, 21, so 3 years yung vesting year, no? Para ma-reach na yung 200 pesos na share price. Okay? So it is expected that the share price of the company would reach 200 on December 31, 2021. So achievable naman daw. The options are exercisable until the end of 2022. So based on the option pricing model, the fair value of the share option is 20 pesos. So again, this is an example of market condition kasi ang kailangan natin i-meet na requirement is the 200 pesos na share price natin. So let's try to have the discussion of the answers for this problem, also considering some various scenarios. Okay, so I put various scenarios. So in this scenario 1, assuming that the market price of the share reached 200 in December 31, 2020, okay, and the shares were exercised in 2021. So, di ba kanina dun sa problem, ang target is ma-meet yun up to 2021. In this scenario, na-meet na siya agad ng 2020, no? Ano yung mangyayari sa atin? So still on the date of grant, January 1, 2019, we will have the memorandum entry. Okay? So on December 31, 2019, our compensation expense to be recorded would be, okay, so 10,000 share options times 20 na fair value of the share option. So that's a total of 200,000. Dahil hindi pa naman siya nag-vests on 2019, so we still proportionate it towards the 3-year vesting period natin. So 1/3 kasi first year pa lang. So we have a compensation expense for 2019 na 66,667. So our entry would be debit compensation expense, okay, 66,667, and credit share options outstanding, 66,667. So at the end of 2019, we have 66,667 as share options outstanding on our balance sheet. Now, in the year 2020, as mentioned on the scenario, no, na-achieve na natin yung market price na 200. So the share options will now vest. Although magbe-vest na siya ng 2020, we need to recognize the expense in 2020. So that would be computed ngayon as the 200,000 na total value supposed to be ng option minus yung previously recognized na 66,667. Sir, bakit hindi na natin minultiply yung 200,000 ng 2/3? Tapos saka pa lang minus yung 66,667. It's because, di ba, in 2020, nag-vest na. Hindi natin kailangan antayin yung 3-year or 2021 para mag-vest. Ngayon, nag-vest na siya immediately on 2020. Kaya full amount na natitira will be recorded as compensation expense in 2020. Kaya ang entry would be debit compensation expense, okay, 133,333, and credit share options outstanding, 133,333, which will now gives us the total cumulative value of the share options outstanding na 200,000. Okay? Any question? So the next entry will be about now the exercise. Again, we are still on scenario number 1 na nag-hit yung share price ng 200 on December 2020. So the exercise now, sabi sa problem na exercise in 2021. So the entry would be debit share options outstanding 200,000. So yun yung ending balance kanina. Okay, then we debit cash. So 10,000 share options, which is to purchase 10,000 shares times 120 na strike price. So 1,200,000. Then credit ordinary share capital na 1 million out of the 10,000 shares times 100 na par, and we credit the share premium of 400,000. Actually, sa exercise, wala namang pinagkaiba. Ang nagkaroon lang ng bearing ang market condition is how we compute for the compensation expense. So this is scenario number 1. Any question? Okay. The same problem, no? We have scenario number 2. What if naman na meet yung market condition ng December 2021? Di ba yun yung last day na para ma-meet yung condition? Kanina, on the first scenario, we have met the requirement on 2020. Ngayon, 2021 naman. What will be the effect? So, let's see. So, on January 1, 2019, no, at the date of grant, still memorandum entry. On December 31, 2019, no, we need to recognize still the compensation expense. So we debit compensation expense 66,667 and credit share options outstanding 66,667. So same lang siya nung kanina sa scenario 1, how we compute. So yung 10,000 share options times the 20 pesos na fair value of the options, which is equal to 200,000 times 1 over 3, first year of the 3-year vesting period, kaya 66,667. Okay? So ngayon, in December 31, 2020, dahil hindi pa naman na-meet ulit yung target on this year, so we will have the entry na compensation expense, 66,666, and credit share options outstanding, 66,666. So paano na-compute yun? Again, the 10,000 share options times 20 pesos na fair value of the option, that's a total cumulative value of 200,000 times 2 over 3, kasi second year na siya ng 3-year vesting period. That's equal to 133,000 minus yung na-record na noong 2019 na 66,667. Kaya for 2020, we have 66,666. So the ending balance as of December 31, 2020 for the share options outstanding is 133,333. So to continue with scenario number 2, on December 31, 2021, which is the last day of the vesting period, so we debit compensation expense 66,667 and credit share options outstanding 66,667. So that would be coming from the 10,000 share options ulit times 20 na fair value, so 200,000 times 3 over 3 kasi third year na ng ating 3-year vesting period. So that's 200,000 minus yung cumulative value natin in 2020 na 133,333. So that's a total na or a difference right now of 66,667. So at the end of December 31, 2021, our share options already vested since, okay, na-reach na natin yung target na 200 peso per share. And the ending balance of the share options outstanding is also 200,000. Okay? So once exercised in 2022, ang entry na natin would be debit share options outstanding, 200,000, debit cash na 1,200,000, credit ordinary share capital na 1 million, and credit ordinary share premium na 400,000. So any question? Okay, none? So we are down to the last scenario. So assuming that the share price reached 200 peso on June 2022. So remember that the condition needs to be met on December 31, 2021. So dahil lumampas na tayo, what will happen later is hindi po ma-exercise ni employees yung options. Pero let's show what will be the entries. So on January 1, 2019, at the date of grant, still memorandum entry. Okay, on December 31, 2019, it's still a debit to compensation expense, credit share options outstanding of 66,667. So the 10,000 share options times 20 fair value times 1 over 3 kasi first year of the 3-year vesting period, so 66,667 for the first year. Now, on the second year, we have debit compensation expense, credit share options outstanding, 66,666. Okay, same nung kanina, di ba? Okay, which is 10,000 share options times 20 na fair value times 2 over 3 kasi second year siya. Then, that's equal to 133,333, and previously recognized is 66,667. So the difference of those will be 66,666. So at the end of the 2020, now our total share options outstanding presented in the balance sheet would be 133,333. Okay, next would be on 2021. So kahit hindi siya nag-vest in 2021, we still need to give the entry for the compensation expense. So we debit compensation expense 66,667 and credit share options outstanding 66,667. So that's coming from the 10,000 share options times 20 na fair value Okay, times 3/3 since this is the last year. Okay, minus yung cumulative value natin last time na 133,333. So that's equal to 66,667. So the total share options outstanding as of the end of December 31, 2021 is 200,000. So right now, dahil hindi na-meet yung target as of 2021, mapu-forfeit yung share option. Ibig sabihin, hindi na ma-exercise ni um, employee yung kanyang share options, no? So what will happen is just like what had happened to the warrants last time or even yung mga previous slides natin about the unexercised options. Now we are going to transfer it to another paid-in capital account. So we record it as debit share options outstanding 200,000 and credit paid-in capital from forfeited share options 200,000. Okay? Any questions, sir? Kailangan ba 2022? Okay, actually, 2022 is the best date to record the reversal kasi nga dun na natin talaga mag-expired supposed to be yung option, di ba? At hindi niya na-meet. So, although in some entities, they are already recording it at 2021. Pero most likely, it would be better for 2022. Okay? Pero the same entry pa rin siya. Now, this is the end of the share options. Again, to recap, we have discussed here in this presentation about the introduction of some terminologies coming from IFRS number 2. Okay, and also we have discussed equity settled share-based payment transactions, which is giving us a share option. Okay, so ngayon share option lang ang na-discuss. So for our next meeting's discussion, we will be talking about naman yung cash settled. Kasi di ba, naalala niyo sa introduction kanina, dalawa yung possible settlement sa share-based payment. One is equity settled, so ito tong share options. Pero yung other was cash settled, so share appreciation rights naman. Okay, so we will discuss that on our next meeting or next PowerPoint presentation. Okay, any questions? So wala. So if you have any questions, just feel free na mag-approach sa akin through DM or PM. Okay? So with that, thank you very much for listening and have a great day.